garbage. Now, Texans are this fun young team with a great young quarterback and with a defensive rookie of the year and Will Anderson. And I look to the head coach. I look at DeMeco Ryans. He has instilled a culture of not only winning, but a culture of fun, competitive, hardworking guys.
I think the Houston Texans are trying to be the 2021 Cincinnati Bengals. You know, Joe Burrow's second year. We hit on the rookie quarterback. He's a stud. And, you know, what's unique about Houston's situation right now, after all the names that Lewis just went through, is they don't have to have their focus on, well, how do we help the young quarterback take the next step in year two? They're going, no. How do we help this team go win a Super Bowl?
From the very first day DeMeco Ryans became the new head coach of the Houston Texans, I knew they were going, or he was going to, change the entire culture of this team. However, what I didn't know was how fast he was going to do it. I mean, from year one, the jump was insane. It doesn't even make sense. They went from one of the worst teams in football, who owned the number 2 pick, traded up to the number 3 as well, and now they're one of the best teams in football. And not only are they one of the best teams in football, but they are attracting free agents to want to play here. And that is because of this man right here. DeMeco Ryans is a difference maker, and he has done so much already this offseason to make sure this team is competitive and maybe even could win a Super Bowl next season. Let's begin by talking about the big fish free agent that he acquired this offseason already.
Oh, here we go. Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter, the Pro Bowl defensive end for the Minnesota Vikings, is signing with the Houston Texans.
And boom, just like that, you add one of the best edge rushers in football. Now, I mean, when you look at this man's stats, he is a complete difference maker. I mean, just take a look at some of these numbers. Over his career since 2015, the man has 87.5 sacks, 11 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, and 35.5 run stuffs. Coming off a season with 9, which is a career high. This man is insane. Also a career high in sacks. So not only is he how old is he? 29 years old, in the prime of his career, coming off his best season yet. But also, I want to show you this. Now, okay, what we are looking at right now is some of the stats from last season from the Houston Texans defense. Now, I want you to focus to this side of the screen, right? They ranked number 30 in completion percentage allowed, right? But they also ranked number 9 in sack percentage, right? So they're already one of the best teams in the NFL in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback. But now you add a guy in DeMeco Ryans who will make this number skyrocket. And I don't want to discredit a guy like Jonathan Grenard who they had last season, but this man, Danielle Hunter, brings a whole new dynamic and versatility to this team, right? Now, I start off by pointing out the completion percentage number. Obviously, that's one of the worst in the NFL. Now, you might be asking, well, why does Danielle Hunter affect that? Yeah, well, if you understand football, we know when you can generate pressure on a quarterback, you can force one of 5 things: an incompletion, a bad decision, a bad pass, a interception, a forced fumble. This number with Danielle Hunter will go skyrocketing downwards, and then you have Will Anderson on the opposite side. And then DeMeco Ryans went out here and added a very underrated linebacker in Aziz Al-Shaair. After losing Blake Cashman in free agency, they needed to bring in a middle linebacker, a leader of the defense, and that is exactly what Aziz Al-Shaair does. And he actually was formerly with DeMeco Ryans in San Francisco. Let's talk a little bit about him. Azeez is a tackling machine. Now, as you see here, played 4 seasons in San Francisco with DeMeco Ryans, and then went on to Tennessee, where he had a career season. Guys, 163 tackles, which was 5th most in the NFL last season. 84 of those were solo. He also brought in 2 sacks and had 12 run stuffs as well. Now, another thing we need to look at here was the stats for their run game last year. So boom, the first thing we notice here is they were one of the best running defenses in all of football, ranking number 2 in yards allowed per carry, but also number 8 in yards allowed per game on the ground. However, they did struggle when they got to the goal line, and obviously they're losing a guy like Malik Collins and some other defensive tackles as well. Now, before we continue on and jump into more of the signings that will be crucial for this team going into next season, do me a favor and hit the like button just so we can get this video out to more Texans fans. If we get it up to 400 likes, we'll be dropping non-stop coverage of the Texans for the rest of the offseason. But also, subscribe if you're new. It is free, doesn't cost anything. Guys, join the family, right? But also, lastly, comment down below the number 1 if you like what they've done so far, and comment down below a letter grade for all the moves they've done so far. I'm going to give them a solid A-. I think there are some moves that still need to be made, but let me know what you guys think down below. Let's get right back into the video. Now, bringing in a guy like Aziz Al-Shaair is a huge addition, right? You needed to replace that Blake Cashman type of linebacker. And with this move, you do exactly that. Now, when we look at their depth chart, you have Christian Harris, you have, Jake Hansen, but other than that, there was nobody I really trusted. Maybe Henry 202, right? I don't know if I said that right. But Azeez is a difference maker from day one. The day one starter has already played under DeMeco Ryans. This is a perfect fit. And then you had a guy like Deshaun Phillips, who is another linebacker who can step in and be a special teamer right away. Now, listen, we talked about a little while ago how they allowed way too many rushing touchdowns per game last season. And again, this is where they made their upgrade. They had a guy in Fatou Kassi who will be an immediate upgrade to the defensive tackle position as well. So right off the bat, you're adding 3 starters to this defense from last season. Foley is a guy who will come in right away, right? And he will be a disruptor up the middle. I mean, look at this guy play football. Hand it off to number 22 and look, bully zone. Absolutely bulldozer. I mean, doesn't even make sense what this guy just did. Threw this right guard or the center right back into the running back. Dude, this dude Foley is going to come in here and be an immediate threat to earn a lot of playing time, especially on those 3rd and 1, 2nd and 1, early, or goal line situations. This man's going to get a lot of reps, and I'm telling you right now, Houston fans are going to slowly start to fall in love with what he brings to the team. Now, Foley, as he's lined up right here on your screen, he is not a guy who is going to wow you in terms of getting sacks. I mean, over his 5-year career, only has 4.5 sacks, right? However, with that being said, way more athletic than he looks. On this play, specifically, again, the strength, we do see a screen here, so, sort of allowing him to get in there. But watch how he uses his hands to bat down this football. A little bit more athletic than you may think looking at the man's size. Upright. I mean, dude, he is massive. 6'4", 318 pounds, basically just turned 29 years old, and the Houston Texans get a nice little addition here along their defensive line, a guy who can play on those late down rolls, like I said, in those run situations, can really make a difference. But DeMeco Ryans wasn't finished just yet. They also signed Jeff Okudah on a 1-year, $4.7 million deal with only $2.5 million guaranteed, right? A former first-round pick for basically nothing. I mean, man, what a low-risk, high-reward situation, and another day-one starter, or could be potentially a day-one starter, depending on how he plays in training camp. Now, Jeff Okudah hasn't really lived up to his expectations thus far in his career, only acclimating 168 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. But keep in mind, only played 10 games through his first 2 seasons, and then Detroit, his 2022 season, 73 tackles, had a little bit of a better season, and then with Atlanta, actually had a big jump, maybe not in terms of the turnovers that we wanted to see, but was still a very reliable DB, which is why he's getting another opportunity here in Houston with DeMeco Ryans. Now, when we look at him, 25 years old, 6'1", lengthy corner, former first-round pick. DeMeco Ryans can get the best out of him, and if he does, they just got a first-round cornerback for nothing. Now, when you look up and down this defense and look at what acquisitions they actually made, right? We start off with a guy like Fatou Kassi, who I believe will be an immediate day one starter, a big acquisition in terms of stopping the run. But you also talk about Jeff Okudah in the secondary. I think he could be a day one starter alongside Derek Stingley, Desmond King, and then you have Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward as well. From there, you had Danielle Hunter, one of the best defensive ends in football, one of the most underrated as well. I feel like this man is one of the best in the NFL right now, right? And then from there, you replace Blake Cashman with Aziz Al-Shaair, former player of DeMeco Ryans. They know a lot about each other already. They know where they like to play. Listen, this is going to be a huge fit as well. And then from there, they add a bunch of depth guys as well. And depth is one of the most important things you can have in football with Danico Autry, a backup defensive lineman who will be able to rotate in, coming off one of his best seasons yet. I mean, the man was incredible last year, and he's really going to be one of the best depth pieces in football, right? And then you talk about Deshaun Phillips, right? The special teamer, the ace, can play a lot of roles, can play a little bit of linebacker, can be that main backup. Again, I love what DeMeco Ryans does in terms of developing his guys. I think this one will be special. And then you talk about Mike Ford, another backup defensive back to go along with a guy like Kader Holman, D'Angelo Ross, Chris Boyd, right, Troy Pride. They needed to add backup depth, and this guy, Mike Ford, has been here, has done it for a while now. He can add some veteran leadership as well as just experience and depth behind Derek Stingley. And then Lonnie Johnson, man, a guy who really, played well in Houston for a couple of seasons, decided to go elsewhere, asked for a trade, but now he finds himself back here in Houston. And again, a great backup to have here. A versatile player, can play a little bit of DB or a nickel, but also is a good safety as well. Dude, Texans defensively got so much better. Now, I know I spent the majority of this video talking about, Fadu Kasi and Danielle Hunter and Aziz Al-Shaair, Jeff Okudah, right? I know I didn't talk about the secondary players like, for example, the Joe Mixons, right? The David Sharps, the Nico Autry, Deshaun Phillips. And while I'm doing it, Mike Ford, Lonnie Johnson as well, right? So if you guys want the full in-depth breakdown of the part 2, I will do that. Comment down below the number 4 if you want part 2 to drop. But also, they're going to continue to make signings. And as they make signings, more videos will drop. Part 2 is probably going to be coming out anyway very shortly, probably the next couple of days. But the more you guys comment the number 4, it will tell me you guys really, really, really want this video. So with that being said, do that, subscribe, join the family, and I'll see you guys in part 2, which should be very soon.